Hello, this is Keith and welcome to the Solo Gamers Club. In this video, I'm going to discuss a topic which I've never covered on my channel, that being solo tabletop role-playing games. I've been out of the RPG genre for some 40 odd years now, with my experience dating back to the first and second editions of D&D, back in the 70s. Man, I'm old. I came across a system from Free League Games called Forbidden Lands. I was drawn to it as the system harkened back to the old school structures from days past, which always appeals to me. This system was not designed with the solitaire player in mind, but its rules and mechanics lend themselves extremely well to solo play. This is in part due to an abundance of random tables that were designed to facilitate the GM's job in running the game. After looking into this further, I purchased the core box back in 2021, and I was immediately impressed by the overall quality of the components that were included. The game comes with two beautifully bound fall leather books, a Game Master's Guide, and a Player's Handbook. These volumes are illustrated in just fantastic black and white pencil drawings, and this really drew me back to my old days of role-playing games, D&D in particular. In addition, the creators of the game provide a booklet called Legends and Adventures. And this booklet allows the player to randomly draw up legends and different adventures and backstories for your heroes that you choose to create. There's two methods that you can use to create your adventurers. First one is the standard method where you're choosing a kin or a race and then going through a sequence of steps to build the character, much in the way that you would in Dungeons & Dragons. But with the use of this Legends and Adventurers booklet, you can actually randomly create a character along with his backstory and equipment, and it's really a very, very neat system. And this goes a long way to aiding a solo player in beginning his adventure in what is known as the Ravenlands. So with just a few dice rolls and consulting some tables, the solo gamer can immediately create a character with their backstory and be ready for play. The core box also includes a stunning double-sided map of the Ravenlands, along with a sheet of stickers that you can use to customize the map in your own way. And this sheet of stickers would allow you to place different adventure sites or villages or towns, along with places of interest on the map, and you can customize it to your own liking, which is pretty neat. Since 2021, I've read through the books periodically and have been drawn into its rich narrative that the designers had developed. Then in 2023, Free League released a new volume called The Book of Beasts. And lo and behold, I discovered that this book also included a dedicated solo system, and the game was on. I later found out that the solo system was created by Matt Kay, who runs a YouTube channel called Three Skulls Tavern, a channel which is dedicated to role-playing related content. I've created a short introduction into the system that will explain a bit of the game's backstory with a sample character that I created. So let's take a look at this, and I'll return with a little more in a bit.
For 3 centuries, the world was shrouded by a demonic curse known as the Blood Mist. For 10 generations, all kin, save the elves, lived in mortal fear of the night, as the malignant blood-red mist had claimed innumerable souls over the centuries. The dread was so profound that few dared travel beyond half a day's distance from their birthplace. Then, inexplicably, the nocturnal plague dissipated, and courageous souls began to reclaim that which was lost. The knowledge of the pre-blood mist world had dwindled into myth, eventually becoming legend. Yet, a new era of exploration has dawned, marked by the rise of intrepid adventurers. Among them is an orc sorcerer named Ergen Varfu. Born in 1132, within the Arena Forest's secluded hamlet of Mulashteep, Ergen hailed from the bellicose Aesir clan. Yet, he never truly belonged. Ergen possessed an innate ability to perceive the unseen and grasp the unfathomable. In his youth, he apprenticed in magic under the renowned orc sorcerer Zomath Uzel. As a young apprentice, Ergen joined the service of an orc lord, Eldag the Ravager, as part of his circle of arcane advisors. It was under Zomath's guidance that he delved into the intricacies of magic, politics, and diplomacy. A fateful day arrived when a magical experiment led by Ergen went awry, resulting in the death of the Orc Lord's nephew. Cast out from his clan, Ergen became a wanderer, a drifter as termed by his kin. It is the first of four Rise, 1165, as our story opens, somewhere within the dank woodlands of the western Arena Forest.
As you can see, this world has an enormous amount of potential for the solo gamer, and its open sandbox style could make for some wonderful adventures and superb storytelling. A large part of this system centers on overland travel and in discovering adventure locations such as villages, ruins, dungeons, and castles. The game uses what's known as a Year Zero engine. The basics of the Year Zero engine are very easy to learn. You roll a pool of six-sided dice consisting of white base dice, red skill dice, and black equipment dice. And you need to roll at least 1 6 to succeed on whatever you're attempting to do. The more sixes you roll, the better the result. Ones are banes, and those would only come into play if the roll is pushed in an attempt to get a success. This simple system is easy to learn, and complexity and depth are added piece by piece, offering more choices to the player as they gain more insight into the system. To date, I have not actually played the game, but I'm eager to try it out. I've created some player aids that should assist me in starting my first solo RPG experience. These include a combat board and an actions assignment board, a day tracker, and a collection of frequently used tables that I've copied from the books. I placed all these materials into a ring binder, and I'm kind of just preparing myself for my first adventure. I've created a couple characters, went through the process, and along with that, I've also purchased a few extra items that were available on drivethrurpg.com that were created by users of the system, and they include things like advanced weather, more detailed sea travel, custom adventure locations, etc. Now in this case, I've purchased a module called Ravenland Weather, and this basically is a Hex Flower system which has a memory, which is pretty cool. The Book of Beasts did provide a weather system, but it doesn't have any memory, so you could go from extreme heat to extreme cold with rolls, and that's not realistic. So what I've done is I've downloaded this, I've added some of the advanced rules for weather, and this chart didn't deal with directly with temperature, so I've added my own a little bit. I've got in the summertime, I've got some excessive heat, and in the fall and winter I've got some excessive cold, and those could randomly come up during play. I also downloaded a expansion, solo expansion, that was produced by Matt K, and I purchased that also on the drivethrurpg.com site. And here he basically offers some extra bonuses to the solo system that he's created. And from what I understand, he had some space limitations as to how many pages he was allowed to include with that solo RPG system. So this is kind of like what he would call a director's cut, so to speak, of those rules. Another thing I did in preparation for my first test playthrough of this system is I downloaded a map, black and white map, from the Free League site, and I kind of printed out a blow-up of the area I'm going to be operating in, and a master map, which is a smaller version of the main map. And I'm going to use these where I can mark these up. Part of the features that I'm going to be including in my playthrough are going to be a kind of a knowledge that this map has been created many hundreds of years ago. Once you dive into the backstory, you'll see that the people have not been traveling around the world for a very long time. So a lot of the I'm going to assume that a lot of the information on this map is people's guesses, and although it might show a settlement in an area, it may or may not be there. So that's going to be kind of the use of these black and white sheets, and I can mark those up with markers and kind of create my world as I go. I also created some custom sheets for myself that kind of help on assigning actions to the team as you're playing through the game, a way to kind of gauge the combat system, and another display that kind of charts the morning, day, evening, and night during each turn. These are broken into quarters, and that's the basic unit of movement within the game system, is quarters of days. You can assign certain actions during that quarter, and we would place our tokens of those characters on there to indicate what their action will be. I also manufactured some custom tokens for myself, and these would include some of the player characters, some tokens for the season, spring, summer, fall, and winter, some of the terrain that we would be dealing with, and whether there's a hamlet, outpost, or castle, or whatever, and then some informational tokens that would be regarding useful in combat, and whether the terrain is open, cramped, etc. I've also created another token that I can use on my quarter displays, and whether it would be daylight or evening and nighttime, and that affects movement, whether you're moving through darkness or not. Although I adore the map that is included, I'm considering about generating terrain randomly by use of a terrain hex flower that I've created. This would offer the solo player the mystery in generating the world randomly, but this would somewhat diminish the wonderful backstories that the authors have created for the different regions of the Ravenlands. So I'll need to think about this a little bit before I abandon the game map. My idea of the hex flower would be further advanced by purchasing some hexagonal counters and pasting terrain images on them. In addition, I would give the terrain tiles a bit of the third dimension by gluing 3 counters together for mountains and 2 counters for hills. With this method, the terrain would evolve randomly, and I would be just as surprised as the viewers would be as I'm playing. Right now, I'm uncertain at this point if this is something that I'm going to actually bring to the channel, as I'm not sure that I have the skills that would be required to turn this fine system into something that people would enjoy watching. I'll have to see how my test playthroughs go, and if I feel comfortable enough with it, this might be something that would be coming to the channel in the future. So that'll just about wrap this video up. I just simply wanted to bring this system to the attention of my viewers in the event that you haven't heard about this game and that you might want to find out more information about this outstanding system. From what I can see at this point, this game has definitely great potential for the solo gamer. Now, as I said earlier, I have not actually played this game yet. I've kind of been assembling my materials and kind of just trying to learn the system and the solo system on top of it. One thing I should point out is a big part of the solo system is not only dice rolls, but the use of a standard deck of cards, which is quite interesting. Quite a few of the tables that the designer has created are using cards instead of dice rolls, which is quite interesting. The deck is shuffled once per day in the morning quarter, and you can use this deck for not only the tables, the random tables that he's created, but also for yes and no answers and questions as you're playing. Like you might be in a forest and you say, do I see anything up ahead? And you turn a card and it would be yes or no, and to some varying degree of success with that. And then that would be also interlaced with your standard skill rolls that you'd be making as a part of the standard game. So in closing, I'm going to be looking at this more carefully, and I'll see if this is something that I might bring to the channel in the future. At this point, I don't know if this is something that I'll be able to film and present to the viewers in a logical and entertaining fashion. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at. But I think the game has great potential for telling a great story and a lot of adventure. So, well, thank you so much for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club, and I hope that you found this short video interesting. And perhaps we might return to this again sometime in the future. So in the meantime, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club signing off and wishing everyone a pleasant evening. Good night.